fast forward to today, and now that's where I get emotional. We're here, and he is talking with everybody. He's out there with people, and people are talking, and he's doing therapy with Dr. Hatch. And it's just night and day improvement. I'm Darcy Clemenson, and I'm the mother of Jackson Clemenson. We started noticing when he was 8 years old. He's very excited about life, very energetic. We went to a doctor and he diagnosed him with ADHD, which found out doesn't even have that. But he would always get tapped on the shoulder in school. Shh, Jackson, shh, Jackson, shh, Jackson, shh, tap on the shoulder. So he became adverse to getting tapped on the shoulder. And when everybody would shush, he'd go, ah, and he'd hit his ears. And we noticed he was in a little play at school on the stage, and we saw him just hitting his ears because they were shushing behind stage. And so we're like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, what's going on? So then from there we went to the neurologist, we went to, I think, 3 audiologists, we went to a hypnotist, we just remained doctor. Nobody heard about misophonia, nobody knew what it was. We didn't even know what it was at that point. It wasn't tinnitus, it wasn't hyperacusis, we didn't know what it was. So we're kind of exhausted. Went home and I researched all the time, and I Googled, why does my son have an adverse reaction to shushing, and misophonia popped up, and I yelled for my husband like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what he has, and it described him to a T. So at that point we knew what he had. So then we started getting involved with different misophonia communities and learning about it, became involved with an association, learned more there, and really studied what options they had, which mostly boiled down to the white noise generators, which we knew didn't work for us. In the meantime, I was on a treatment tracker social page, and I saw Dr. Hatch popping up. People have had great results with and great things to say about him, so I started tracking him for about 2 years and seeing what was happening. And then, lo and behold, he came to speak at a conference in Minnesota. And we didn't even realize that. We get there and I'm like, gosh, this is Dr. Hatch. I'm like, I told my husband, this is a guy I've been following for 2 years. So met with him, and fast forward, made the decision to come here. And at that point, my son had some verbal tics. Jackson had a tics for a while where he couldn't even finish a sentence. He would try and talk and he'd have to keep saying it. He couldn't even get a complete sentence out at all. And so his psychiatrist put him on a medication that greatly escalated his reactions of misophonia, where my husband and I couldn't even speak around him. He couldn't be in school. Basically, we have a whole tablet of notes we'd have to write. We couldn't talk to him at all. And so we got the appointment here and talked with Christine, and basically my husband drove him 18 hours from Minneapolis without speaking, couldn't eat next to him, had to step out of the car to eat, drove here, couldn't speak, and they had him come in the back, and they had quiet room where we piped in music because the more noise the better, and Dr. Hatch did his entire week of therapy on whiteboards and with notes. Nobody could speak to him. And through all the brain exercises and the FaceTime calls with Dr. Hatch talks to him about everything, and he relates to Jackson in a way that appeals to his logical brain, and so Jackson understands why he's such an empath. He cares about everybody. He wants to save everybody, and he has all these questions on religion, and Dr. Hatch talks him through that. He doesn't give him the answer, but he just applauds him for how his brain is thinking, and even Jackson's verbal tics. And he has different ones that come and go. Right now he has a little bit of a tongue roll, which is very, very minimal. Dr. Hatch, those are really cool. He thinks those are cool, but then he also has the brain exercise that will help dissipate those tics. He does his exercises at home. It's challenging to get him to do them for his time management. He knows that they help him, but it's been a roller coaster with getting him to do those. But my husband and I have been diligent about, okay, you need to do these. Dr. Hatch reinforces that as well, but does it in a way that gets Jackson excited to do them. Like, Jackson, what's your favorite song? Pump up your favorite song before you do your exercises, and so he does these little tricks to help Jackson do those exercises, which really help a lot. Fast forward to today, and now it's where I get emotional. we're here. And he is talking with everybody. He's out there with people, and people are talking, and he's doing therapy with Dr. Hatch. And it's just night and day improvement. The thing with misophonia, it's just so ethereal. Like, it's this thing that no one, like, what? How can a lip smack cause you to react that way? How can that be? Why can't you just turn it off in your brain? So seeing those tests that prove through eye movement, you can literally see from when he was here a year ago to now, like, you can see his eyes were they were all over the place. His scores were all over the place. And this time, they're tracking perfectly. That gives us just that validity that this is really working from being able to actually see it. Besides what we see and feel for Jackson every day. We see how he is, we see his confidence coming back, we see, him just being happy. We see him thinking about his future and what he can do now instead of all the things he can't do. So that was a huge peace of mind. It makes it feel very concrete with the therapy. And my husband and I talk around him. We go in the car together, we can talk. We don't eat next to him because that's a huge trigger, because lip smacks are a big trigger for him. But if I lip smack, he'll be like, his reaction time is greatly, greatly reduced. And like Jackson says, the power of that reaction is greatly reduced. They're like, Mom, you lip smack. I'm like, sorry. He goes, okay. And that's it. Whereas before, it would ring and ring in his ears, where he'd have to go in his room for the next at least 20 minutes and be hitting his ears and crying from that reaction of that simple lip smack. That's just within a year. So that's pretty huge. And emotionally, he's like a whole new kid. He's always been positive, but misophonia's drug him down, and he's become very negative and not really looking to the future. He talks about his future now, and he's happy, and he laughs, and he skips around, and it's a Jackson that's inside him, but now we see it out here, and that is because of the support of all of his community and his friends and family, but also because of the brain rehab and Dr. Hatch and his whole team, hands down, without a doubt.